Before you even start TIG welding any passes, we're gonna do this to get you amazing results and clean looking passes. And this literally takes 5 seconds to do. Watch this. Look at this welding here and see if you can spot what we need to take care of. Can you see it? To me, it's pretty obvious here. The starts are dirty and they look terrible. They're contaminated, and if you're welding something important, this has to be fixed. I've had problems with this in the past. Have you? If so, let me know in the comments below. This is a common one. Here's what we're gonna do. We want starts like this right here. We can see they are clean, shiny, they have good looking cleaning action, and the size and the shape are established right away at the start of the pass. We have to tick off 2 main things from our checklist before we start every single pass. The first on the checklist is the tungsten. A lot of people think that the tungsten definitely is important, but not the most important. I see people in the comments of videos arguing about what specific grind they should use on a tungsten, whether they should use a pointed tip, a blunted tip, a sharpened tip. I've had people zoom in on photos of my torch and criticize me for not having a grind that's fine enough. Cool, people act like they know what's best for grinding a tungsten, but the most important thing, what happens when they do this right here? Oh, shit. Oh, well. Yeah, so while everybody acts perfect online, that's usually the case right there. So before you flash up and start welding on that next pass, maybe it's front and center and it needs to be a real pretty looking one. Or maybe you're just getting set up for a testing day and you're about to run the first pass. Let's stop for a minute and take a look to make sure we can see what kind of shape your tungsten is in. I don't care if you use a blunted tip, a pointed tip, a bald tungsten tip, whatever. Long grind, short grind, I don't care. If it looks like this, stop what you're doing right now. Look at this right here. Yep, this is my tungsten container right here. I keep a handful of them all at once ready to go. I grind a whole handful of them. I prep them all at once. And again, like I said, I do not care what kind of prep you prefer using. Just make sure that you have a fat stash of these prepared however you like, clean as a whistle, ready to go. If you're tacking something together and you accidentally dip, it's all good, my friend. It happens to everybody. You need to stop and take a thorough and close look at your tungsten before you do every weld. If it looks a little bit shady or a little bit off, and honestly, this can happen without you even dipping. Did you know that? Yes, that's right, even without dipping. I'll go over that in the next tip here. Don't go anywhere, or I will find you. If you just dipped, it's all good. Just identify that you just smashed that poor little fella and swap it out for a fresh one. It takes no time to do. Matter of fact, let's set up and time me doing it right here, right now. Ready, set, go. Okay, maybe it took a couple extra seconds, but whatever. Now you know for a fact that when you light up to blaze on your next pass here, the start is going to be smooth and clean. So what's the second thing that we need to check off from our checklist before every weld? This one's over here at the machine end. Check this out with me. What we're gonna look at here is our pre and our post flow settings. For those of you who don't know what these settings are, it's all good. Let's check it out. Pre-flow is a setting on our machine, and this setting is going to be measured in seconds. This will be the amount of time that your gas will flow from your torch before your welder initiates the arc. You trigger this with your foot pedal or whatever trigger you are using. For example, if you have your timer set for 1 second, after you trigger this, the timer will start and it will flood the welding area with gas for 1 second before igniting. I usually have mine set up for about a half a second. This is gonna flood the area with gas and clear any nitrogen or oxygen from the welding area. These are the things that we breathe in our air that are really bad for your welding area. So, post-flow is the opposite of that. This is gonna be the amount of time that your gas is gonna flow out of your torch after you extinguish a weld. To be honest, pre-flow isn't terribly important. It does need to happen to kind of clear the welding area of the stuff that we talked about that we don't want in our weld. But post-flow is extremely important. You might hear it. A lot of people say that post-flow is only important when TIG welding stainless steel. I'll go over that in a second. They are absolutely correct. It is vitally important to stainless steel and other reactive metals, but it is also absolutely important with TIG welding aluminum. Now, remember in the previous tip when I talked about how your tungsten can be wrecked even if you don't dip it? Look at this tungsten. What's wrong with this little turkey right here? Do you know? Pause the video. Put the answer in the comments if you do know. I go over this one a lot in my episodes, to be fair. It's not the preparation that that we're talking about is the finish that we see on the tungsten. It's dull as heck, man. Like I said, I do not care what preparation you are using. It needs to be shiny and oxide free, which is controlled by the setting of post flow. Like I said, when you are TIG welding aluminum, post flow is extremely important. However, this time we need to cover the tungsten with a good supply of gas while it is glowing red hot. It's the same thing as post flowing stainless steel. When you finish a stainless steel pass, it needs to be shielded the entire time it is glowing red hot. If you pull your torch away too quickly, or if your post-flow setting is inadequate for the time that you may need, gas will be cut off too early and oxide will form and it looks like this. Yuck, boo. When we're TIG welding aluminum, obviously the material does not heat up and glow red hot, so it doesn't quite react with the atmosphere that we breathe the same way that stainless steel does. That's why the aluminum base material doesn't really depend on a post-flow cycle the way stainless steel does, but your tungsten absolutely does. It's the exact same as a stainless steel base material. When you finish a pass, this is going to be glowing red hot. And the gas needs to flow this entire time plus a couple extra seconds to prevent this oxide from forming. After you finish a pass, keep your torch stable and stationary, don't move it. And do not pull it away after the pass. This is going to interrupt the gas flow coming out of the end of the torch. A proper post-flow cycle that is adequately long enough in time, as well as keeping your torch completely stable and in close, don't move it. This is going to prevent oxide and leave your tungsten shiny and reflective. Now that you know this, look at this dirty little piggy again. Like I said, even if you don't dip, you can finish a weld, and without proper post-flow, the electrode will form this oxide stuff here. This is the exact same oxide that we formed with our stainless steel base material like we just talked about. What's gonna happen is when you go to start up your next weld, yuck! And this is what takes us back to our first examples that we saw here. We see dirty starts. Now, as you get welding and you start to travel, things do clean up as you start to travel away from these starts. Things start to clean up as you move away from the start and it burns off this oxide and contamination. But then here's the crazy thing is after you finish this next weld, the exact same thing happens all over again. So when you go to start up your next pass, instead of just flashing up and carrying on this endless cycle, stop, look at your tungsten. And if it looks like this, here we go. Let's see if I can do it faster this time. And go. Okay, we're getting better, not bad. And then at this point, you make any adjustment that you may need to with your post-flow cycle. If you do everything like we just talked about, the next start's gonna be a beauty. Well, it should be. There's actually one more thing that can cause really bad starts, and I didn't really mention this one before. Watch this. Don't do this here. Okay, ready to weld? Let's go. Bam! Do not slam your pedal down and go full blast. Don't do it. If you use a trigger instead of a pedal, the exact same thing. Go in nice and slow. So many people just hit the gas and go 100% with all of their amperage. Let's go. This thing is not an on and off switch. You need to ease into the start, nice and slow. When you do so, you will let the puddle establish properly. And at this point, you can then get into the rest of the amperage that you want to use. Now, did you know this? When you arc on too fast, this causes instability with your electrode. When I tell people this, a lot of people are like, what? And when this instability occurs, this can happen. Let's see if you can spot it. Watch for it. See it? No? Okay, watch again. See it now? Watch this thing right here again. This is a piece of tungsten that is being ejected from the welding area. The shock of the sudden amperage causes this instability, and the tungsten is then damaged so badly that it will eject pieces of itself off. This is a term that you might have heard before. It's called arc spit. And as you can imagine, this causes terrible starts as well as permanent damage to your tungsten. This can even splatter all over the inside of your nice cup and your gas screens if you are using one. Again, just ease on the pedal nice and slow. This is going to initiate the arc much more slowly. And then once you get things established, you can ease into the rest of your amperage as needed. There are ice cream trucks seriously passing by right now? Man, I swear my kids' hearing, they can hear this from like 10 miles away. It's crazy. Okay, we're gonna continue because this is taking forever. Now, we're gonna get into this subject even crazier. You ready for this? It's still happening. I can't stop. Okay, this next tip, I guarantee you have never seen this before. Check this out. What we're gonna do here is we're also gonna learn to listen to our weld. We just talked about my kids' hearing. You're gonna do the same with your welding. Okay, check this clip out right here. Okay, after listening to it, did you hear it? It's all good. If not, listen again. So you can hear at the start of that one that our puddle is not completely established yet. The heat is still getting established in relation to the plate thickness that I am using there. This typically takes a second or two, but listen again at the beginning of this one. Do you hear how it kind of sounds a little bit crackly or a little bit like static? This is arc deflection occurring still. It happens at lower amperage before our puddle is established cleanly, and like I said, with proper heat input in relation to the material thickness you are using. You can now listen for this with every weld that you do ever. As you're getting going, before moving or adding filler material, wait for the sound to change. Ready? Listen again. See how after it's a little bit crackly, it just gets smoother and more consistent sounding? This is the point where your puddle is now established. You can now introduce filler material or you can start traveling. If this tip blew your mind, check out my online programs. I go over all kinds of other stuff like this. It'll blow your mind over and over, I promise. If you see smooth and consistent cleaning action like this here, then you have done all of these steps that we have talked about perfectly. A little extra puff of cleaning action at the start is usually common, it's all good. But as you move away from the start, it should look absolutely smooth and clean and consistent. Keeping it nice and tight with your standoff distance is gonna help out with this too. Watch this clip, listen again, let's go for it. Okay, we start, you hear it sounds kind of whack, wait a second. I'm in close with my standoff distance, arc length, whatever. Listen to that as it changes and everything gets ready, smooth and clean as butter. My online classes on my website are free. That's right, you sign up with your email address, you take them at your own convenience on your own time. There's more than one class, pick whichever one you like. They're on demand, watch them whenever you want. Do a random act of kindness for a stranger. I'm Dusty James, Phil and Chill, peace.